So let's start with just introductions for the panel up here. I'm Assad Khaishgi. I'm moderating in cosplaying since around 2012. Not all that good at making my own cosplay, but I enjoy wearing it. And let's...
Sure. Hi, I'm Cisco, the author and television producer, and I've been cosplaying since the mid-aughts. And then before that, I used to do a lot of crafting and costuming as part of my day job in broadcasting.
My name is Amáda Márquez Simula. I have been cosplaying since 1999 and went to the first, I went to the 2000 CONvergence that was in St. Paul. We were one off, and yeah, I love cosplay. I'm Latina. My father's from Mexico, and when we get to questions, I'll remind everyone about the colored sheets of paper on the chairs around you.
I'm Samantha Rei. I'm a fashion designer. I love science fiction. I have a book that's on print now about costume design. I've got a YouTube channel where I complain about costume design, and I was on a show about fashion.
I am Sonni Soto. I've been going to CONvergence and exposed cosplaying at CONvergence for 15 years, and I am a hobbyist. I don't do nothing professionally or with any kind of expertise. I am fly by the seat of your pants.
So we'll maybe to start with one question that is just cosplay in general. What made you think that you would want to come and step out in public wearing a strange costume? And was it like something you saw other people doing? Was it just something you read about and thought you'd like to try that out? Or how did you start?
Well, so my journey was slightly circuitous. I saw a show called Doctor Who when I was in middle school and thought, all right, this is how I'm going to win over all my classmates. My doctor was Sylvester McCoy, who was a very distinctive jumper, and so my cosplay skills are not great now, and they were horrible when I was 8. I made myself a question mark vest, I wore it to school, the kids were not as impressed as I thought they would be, and then I took a bit of a hiatus until my 20s, and at that point it was really just for blending in. I went to a lot of Star Trek conventions, and the first one I went to I was like, oh, you can dress like the characters, that's awesome, I totally want to do that. And then I found out, well, back then, it was really hard to just go online because that wasn't as big a thing. Like the internet was a thing. I'm not super old. Like I'm old, but not. But it wasn't as the options that we have now were not as prevalent back then. And so then I started saying, well, I know what sewing is, so I can try and figure that out. And then that kind of opened up, just snowballed from there.
I started sewing when I was like high school, but
Please move the mic.
sorry, yeah, thank you. I started sewing when I was in high school, but and I made costumes for Halloween every year and loved Halloween and like went to First Avenue where everyone actually dressed up. You know, like those movies you watch at Halloween parties, and everyone actually like knows the assignment and understands it. But in real life, like 2 people dress up and everyone else is like, this is lame, I don't want to. Anyway, the first time I was a friend of mine who had been to the first CONvergence and used to go to Minicon. He was like, you'd be a great Wonder Woman. And I was like, she's a goody two-shoes. Why would I dress up like her? This is before the movie, so she didn't look so badass. But she was badass in the 70s. Anyway, so he was just sort of inspired me to do it. I watched some of the episodes on DVD, or maybe VHS back then, I don't even know. And yeah, made my own Wonder Woman costume and entered in the masquerade here and won the Journeyman level competition. And saw other nerds and was basically hooked. I was like, I can make this stuff. This is amazing. So, yeah.
Let's see. I mean, I've always really liked costumes and Halloween from the time I was just a little tiny human being. And my mom has been sewing her whole life, so she would make our costumes for us. She would wait till the last minute. And we would wake up on Halloween morning and there would be a costume at the foot of our bed and it would be perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was wild. And I think that's why I'm really fast, is because I was like, well, she can finish something really nice, so can I. And I would look, it was like sneaking for Christmas, like I'm gonna find gifts, like I'm gonna find proof she's been working on this like she said she was going to. She never did. But I started sewing when I was in middle school. I started designing when I was late middle school, started like sewing my own stuff in high school, like clothes to wear in high school. And I would make costumes and stuff too. Like I really loved The Crow. I loved Vampire in Brooklyn. There was like a solid week where I dressed as him. It was a very 90s sentence, I'm sorry. And then I think the first time I did something that I guess would be considered cosplay was like, I've always loved Sailor Moon, like since the, I got a tattoo hidden under here. But I did Nahalinya, however you want to say it. I like printed out a bunch of pictures of her and tried my best to recreate it based on both the illustrations and the cartoon, because they were both slightly different. And I like made the beads out of clay because I couldn't find the right beads. It fit me so stupid. It was really bad. And then the next time I did one, I was like, I'm gonna make sure it's right, but I'm black, so I don't want to look weird by wearing a blonde wig, so I'm gonna wear a white wig. And I was Pyoko from D.G. Sherrod. Because I really like pandas. But that was before Anime Detour was a thing. So my first time cosplaying was for Halloween, and I wanted it to be a screen accurate costume of Pyoko. And I wore it on Halloween, and they're like, "Are you Raggedy Ann?" Oh. Because back then, if you weren't the right race for something, they would just assume you were something they didn't know.
My friend back there, Diane, has been going to CONvergence forever, and she kept like harassing us because we were in theater together, so we're theater kids, so of course costumes are a huge part of our lives. And so she was like, "You'll love it. Just go, you will love it." And she just kept saying it year after year after year, and we're all like, "Yeah, we're not that kind of nerd, no." And then we went one year, and we were like, "Oh shit, we are that kind of nerd." And here we are, and like my journey into cosplay has literally been like can I do that? And like I like the puzzle to try to figure out how I do something absolutely nuts. That's why I have 6 slides back here.
No such thing as trekker, we're all trekkies. So it sounds like we already heard a couple of these things already, but so when was the first time that maybe you got a chance to do a cosplay that was more from your own background, more your ethnicity, and how did it feel to be playing that? Did it feel different to do that cosplay as opposed to what you had started with? Maybe we can start on this side.
In terms of like somebody who looked like me, it was probably Asami from Korra. Although unfortunately at the time, like nobody had seen it. And so like I was like, this is really accurate. I did a really good job, and like everybody's like, who are you? I was like, no, I did a good job.
Mine was Korra from Korra. Like, I'm a grown-ass woman. I am 42 years old. And the first time I like dressed as something that looked like me was Korra. And it was like 2015.
Yep.
That is ridiculous. But yeah, like I remember I made it was the finale outfit when she was to the wedding.
Yeah, I did.
And I made my friend Asami, and like we did a little photo shoot, and like out in the woods, and then fighting a little waterfall. It was very cute, very gay. And it was great. But yeah, that's the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I can be a thing that's like my skin tone.
Yeah.
I am an adult.
Yeah. The world is beautiful.
Well, yeah, the first time, this is so awkward. So there was a terrible movie called Hancock. And it starred William Smith. And I had found out it was at CONvergence, and I found out the previous year the hard way that like as much fun as it is to wear lots of leather and EVA foam, that in the middle of July on that parking lot that we used to hang out at. So it's like, I'm gonna go the opposite, because Hancock, in the first half of the movie, he wears shorts, he has an open shirt, he's got the beanie, but like, I was like, I'm gonna wear this. And the reason I knew the costume was effective is because I went to my car to get something, and on the way back, hotel security gave me a shakedown, and I was like, oh no, I'm here for the convention, to like, let me see some ID and all the usual stuff. But, I mean, no, to be fair, this is Bloomington, so even if I was wearing a suit, I still might have gotten the same impressions. But I was like, no, I'm cosplaying Hancock, and when I said that, the security guard's eyes, he's like, oh, I saw that. I was like, dude, you thought I was acting? No. And then from that moment on, I was like, I will only do black characters that William Smith has portrayed.
Let's see. Well, I did, I have a Barbarella costume and like all of her costumes from the movie. And so I've had people say like, how can you be Barbarella because you're not white? But Wonder Woman, funny enough, people still said like, you're not white. I'm like, she is from an island in the Mediterranean. Like, I think I pass. I'm very like generic gender, like, or not gender, sorry, generic like ethnicity background. So I'm Latina, but I'm also just brown. So I guess Wonder Woman, but I haven't really actually done anything that's like literally my like ethnicity. Not yet. Not yet. Encanto, well, is Colombian, but getting there anyway.
Colombia es no mexicano. Punto con inglés. Which just means it's very close, but not quite.
That's exactly what that means.
So I think we heard a couple of these already, but I don't know if any would feel comfortable to share any negative experiences you may have had doing cosplay, especially doing cosplay of people, of characters of a different race. And again, if you don't want to share, that is perfectly fine. So I'm not even going to look.
So, it's one of the things that I think is so exciting about CONvergence and cosplay and the scene now is that the gatekeeping is like just tiny. Like back in 2000, like any costume, even wearing like Wonder Woman, people would be like, yeah, but do you know who the colorist was in episode 17? And like, it was just this ridiculous, if you're gonna dress up as a character, you better know everything. And one guess the type of person that would ask this question? A white man. Who would have, that's all they would have to say. And that's just so little now. And I'm so thankful that, we have so much more representation, but also just the pushback. Just think of like in the aughts, like costumes are not consent. Like that was like not a thing. Before that, costumes kind of were consent, basically. I mean, not at all, but it was, well, what are you wearing kind of thing. And there's the pushback from the community and like having healthy, good boundaries has been so huge and so supported, especially at CONvergence, that this just kind of like, it's not as apparent as it used to be. But like, even talking about being Cinderella, well, how could you play that? You're not white. And I'm just like, what is that even? How do you even say those words out of your mouth?
She's fictional, y'all.
Yeah.
Dare she not be really talking about?
And now we have, thankfully, like the Little Mermaid, and we have people who, because all of us, like, I wasn't able to go to the like how to be an ally panel. My friend Kiki was on it, but like, we're the ones doing the work all the time, and like being an ally, like my husband is white, and he always teaches people how to say my name, which is such a relief for me, because it's hard for me to teach people to say my name, because people feel awkward when I explain my name, and they feel bad, and I feel bad for making them feel bad, and I'm the one who's dealing on, and it's still my name. I just want to say my name. So I think it's so great to have this opportunity to talk about this, and also just the fact that like other people are speaking up for like the Little Mermaid, that are just saying like, she's a fictional character, and I'm like, I never thought to say that 20 years ago. I just thought you're right. Yep, I should shut up. Not anymore.
I had to write an article for Twin Cities Geek called 5 Things Not to Say to Cosplayers of Color, because it was so ridiculous, and it wasn't like super bad, but it was just enough little annoying things. Like the reason why micro and nanoaggressions are so detrimental is because they eat away. And it was little ignorant things that some were very mean-spirited, like the prefix game, which is like you are the black XYZ character, you are the black, the Asian this, the Latinx this. And it's like, no, like Bruce Wayne doesn't exist, because if he did, we know where he would be on January 6th. Like, so we have this beautiful fictional character. I mean, come on. So he's fictional. fictional, so my Bruce Wayne, you know, or like Lex Luthor, like Lex is not short for Alex, it's short for Lexington, you know, yeah. Or the color catalog, and so that's really what I get the most, and I think it's because I look big and scary, even when I do my T-Rex arms, and people are like, no, you're brown, you're tall, you're gonna murder me or something. But, so they try and like show either how cool they are or how unafraid, and they do the color catalog. Like, oh, cool costume, you know, I really like Blade, or like, I saw Black Panther twice, which is the new I voted for Obama.
See, I get the opposite. I'm 4'11", so instead of being like the big scary person, I'm the super approachable little person. And woof, y'all, like, I have zero problem if you have an Asian fetish, just please don't treat me like an Asian fetish. Right? Like, it's just like, there's a way, like, you think I look good? Awesome. I'm all about it. But yeah, there's every once in a while those people that come up to you and you're like, oh, this is going into a special album, isn't this?
I remember, and this is years ago, like when I hang out with my crew and just like people who get the things, because for years I did J Fashion. I was one of the first Lolita designers in the United States, and for years people didn't know I was black because it was a lot harder to get your photos on the internet back in the days of LiveJournal. So people just assumed I was white, and then when I would show up to things, they'd be like, oh, no, you can't be her. And I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, but Lolitas aren't black. And I was like, why? And they're like, because it's Japanese. And I was like, you realize you're white, right? White doesn't mean honorary Japanese. I don't know why you think it does. That's actually why I ended up quitting designing Lolita in 2013, because it was still happening. But I remember I dressed up, I made a Go-Go Yubari costume. It was the year after Kill Bill came out. And I wore it to a Halloween party. And my friend's girlfriend was trashed, and she just said, oh my God, are you Condoleezza Rice? I had a weapon, I had long hair, I was wearing a schoolgirl outfit, but a black woman in a blazer is Condoleezza Rice. So that kind of stuff happened a lot. So it was between like being part of subcultures that are also geek adjacent, and then being like, black people can't do that, and being like, you are also not that thing, you are white. And then just people being fully like, that is the only black person I can think of, so you are that thing, because I'm not going to do the work of actually asking you what you are if I don't recognize it.
And I would say that, I mean, a lot of women, I guess, have had that experience of being accused of the fake fangirl and everything, and I'm sure for a person of color it's 10 times worse. So, sorry, did you have something?
I mean, things improved so well after the first article that I had to write a follow-up called Another 5 Things, which is like a completely different list. And it was just all, because then it was the other, because it seems to reverse itself. Like, you get the ones that are negative. You get the people who like either, you know, say you can't do this or this is incorrect, or they have the prefix before your character. And then what I found happened is the flip side of that was just as bad and just as negative and detrimental and toxic, which was like, no, I'm a super ally. And so they speak for you instead of making space for you, or they want to like save you, and it's like, we're not Princess Peach, like you don't need to save us. Like, we can speak for our damn selves.
I like to call that secondhand offended.
Yeah.
So let's a little happier. Would anybody like to talk about any positive experiences that they had from cosplaying a character?
Kids. Kids are great. Kids are great. I dressed up as Elsa one year, and it was back when we were in the Bloomington location, and I was just eating at Dairy Queen, and this kid was there for 4th of July. Like, this family was not here for con. They looked like wide-eyed, what the hell is going on? That child saw me and screamed like we were at Disney World, and I was like, this is my favorite moment of my life ever. Thank you very much.
That's really wholesome.
Right? They were like, can I take a picture? Can I have a hug? And I'm like, oh, child, yes, please.
Mine isn't so much like cosplay, like me cosplaying, but it's, so the book that I illustrated / mostly wrote, I had a ghostwriter for parts of it, and I will proudly admit that I didn't know I was supposed to be writing it. Anyway, I had a lot of people contact me this year because they bought my book back when it came out to tell me that their kids are now 18 and they're still designing, and that they made their own prom dresses and they're like steampunk or alternative or cosplay related. I got so many pictures this year from proud parents saying that the cosplay book I did help their kids design.
I go with the kids. I've done a lot of like hospital stuff, Zubu at Como for Halloween. If you look up Columbia Heights Mayor Wonder Woman, there was a Care 11 video where a little girl who had just survived like a lot of leukemia appointments, identified like as with loved Wonder Woman, and we did a little photo shoot. Anyway, you can watch it later. It's super cute. But yeah, kids I would say is the biggest thing. And then now, like not to sound like an old person, but it's just so different now than it was in 2000. It's just like I'm so excited and proud of where it is, and that it didn't go this way, instead it went up. But just even like the first CONvergence, I went to Sybil, and Ishmael, and I think there was like 2 other people of color. Like but back then, you know, the common thought was like, we don't see color. Everyone's equal. We don't talk about that, because now you're making it a thing. Why is it a thing, right? People still obviously do that, but even then it was like I would see a geek who was a person of color and be like, I don't know if I should say that I see you, because we're supposed to be just like everyone else. And there's like such joy now in saying people like, hey, there's a BIPOC mixer, like I hope you come, and we want to see, and I see that you're a person of color. And of course not everybody is obviously a person of color, so it also can be exclusionary for people too. And so like being open to all of that and just like talking about it more, just saying like there is a thing for, there's a BIPOC mixer. If you're interested in coming, if you identify that way, like letting it open that there's room for everyone who identifies and there's no gatekeeping. I just think that's really a positive change for the community. I love it.
Yeah, I love that on like the announcement, you guys were like, allies, please come. There's going to be books over there. You can diversify your bookshelf. And I was like, yes, thank you.
It took a long time for conventions to just kind of be an open space where like it was just accepting instead of being the lonely only. And it's funny to walk into something like BlurredCon and they're just like, look, this is for us, but literally everybody is welcome. And my friend said it right, it feels like a big cookout. Like, and conventions are starting to feel more like BlurredCon, which is so nice, but that's also still so new. It's only in like the last 5 years, I think. Also go to BlurredCon, it's really fun.
I need to learn more about this.
Oh my God, so much fun.
That's sort of the irony, right? It's like all these people who are trying to use erasure as the tool for like equity, like it was actually by embracing the fact that we do have differences, whether they're cultural, visual, whatever, then we actually get that equity that they were trying so hard to get. And I would just add, like, in addition to the kids, the parents of the kids are amazing, and grandparents in some cases. They do stuff for Mall of America, when they do like genre premieres for geeky movies like MCU, DC, Barbie's coming up. I'm super excited to be see Barbie again.
Barbie meetup tomorrow at 3 o'clock? Wait, what? Barbie meetup tomorrow at 3 o'clock on the back stairs. Barbie's a vibe.
The parents that have come up afterwards, even at smaller cons, or well, different conventions where I've done like really lazy cosplays, like Nick Fury, which is an eye patch and a tesseract. But I had like this little boy come up to me and he was like, his eyes were like bigger than I was. He's only like 3 feet tall, but somehow, and he was like, oh my God, are you Nick Fury? I was like, yes, it's not a secret. But then like this super old fellow who was with them as an adult was like, hey, I just want to say thank you, man. We didn't think we were gonna see anybody, and he just like loves this, and it's like, oh, like fuck yeah, right on, like let's do it.
Yeah, thank you to all the parents who are like, please ask before you touch.
Can I just add on to like the multi-ages? So at the BIPOC mixer, there was a woman who does henna. And so we were talking about it, and I said, you know, she does science henna. If you look up science henna, amazing, like detailed. She's a scientist, I guess. Anyway, she had some pictures, and I said, I don't mean to like suggest without us asking, but this would be a cool thing to add to the art show. There's pictures of her hands with all this henna design on it. And I said, maybe, you know, you could even do like a henna demonstration at the art show. It's art and stuff. And she said, you know, she said, I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I said, well, here's the thing about CONvergence is that, like maybe we wouldn't want to have a demonstration of a watercolor artist. Maybe we would. But this is culture. Like henna is like next level of showing this inclusion, like you said. Like it's not just like, oh, we want to absorb it and like be there. We want to get to know you and include this culture into our mix so that we're actually inclusive, not just viewing it anyway. So I just thought that's kind of how we want to do it, right? Yeah.
Time starts running away when we've got such fascinating discussions going on. But before we open it up to the audience, I think a lot of people here probably want to discuss what sort of the point of the panel is, to discuss what is appropriate when cosplaying somebody of a different race or ethnicity. I mean, obviously we've got some straightforward things like blackface or yellowface, that's just straight out. But
like, no.
Like, no. But I mean, and from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, obviously there was one time when there were very few like African-American superheroes, and so it seemed kind of weird for other people to be trying to cosplay that. But now I think there are many more out there, and people have even done casting, like Kang is played by an African-American actor, Ahsoka is played by a Hispanic actor. So how do you feel like if somebody says they want to cosplay as Black Panther or Geordie or something, how would you feel, or where would you want to draw the lines? Now, and I understand this is probably not a very simple question. So, and I don't know if anybody has like a pat answer out. So,
I mean, real quick, like before we like dive too deep into this, I want to bring up the fact that like my brother has two little kids that are both like white presenting, and my nephew loves Black Panther. And when he sort of became aware of race, he was just like, is it okay if I dress up like Black Panther? And it's like, of course you can. Why can't you? He's a hero and you're a hero. It's okay. Like, the fact that a little kid would be like, can I be this character? It's like, anybody can be that character. It's just about teaching how to do it right. You're wearing a costume, that means you're Black Panther.
I feel like if it comes from a place of love,
Yeah.
awesome, go for it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, especially like in the past, I would definitely see characters that were of stereotype of a race, and like that was what it was. Like especially like Asian characters tend to be either silent and you're just ninja, or you're a fetish object, or you're a catchphrase, and it's just like it feels like you're a punchline at that point. I feel like if you're doing that, maybe don't, because you get to take it off at the end of the day. I don't get to take it off.
Cosplay is the character, not the race, because the race, unless it's like a really intrinsic part of their character, there's not really a reason to like bring it up. And if that is the case, don't do it.
Yeah, it's like, why do you love this character? Are you laughing at the character, or do you honestly love this character? Like, what is the intention behind it?
I mean, even dressing up like a recognizable rapper, like it's that you like their personality and you like their music and the way they dress, not the fact that they're Black.
But like
the fact that they're
the generic rapper costumes that you see at like Halloween Express, it's just like, please don't, just could you not?
Anything that you can get at Spirit or whatever.
possibly also some of the issues may come from what you described as offense by secondary.
Oh yeah.
I think maybe by
Secondhand.
possibly well-meaning allies who may criticize people for doing what they're doing. So how about on this side?
Well, I would start like, I don't think there's any character or personality or figure that could be cosplayed that shouldn't be cosplayed if it's done in the appropriate fashion. Like if we're talking about like parody, or we're talking about stereotyping and those kind of like offensive images and like misappropriation of culture, then I mean it becomes really obvious. Like the whitest person in here, and I'm not going to look at anyone specifically, because I want to stay in your good graces, but they could cosplay like Storm from the X-Men, they could cosplay T'Challa from Black Panther, and just by saying that, if you're like, no they can't because they would, and if there's anything that enters your lexicon about like self-tanning spray or like painting faces, that's not cosplay, that's just shitty, in pardon my French, but that's what it is. And to the point that if you have to change the color of your skin or your like facial features to be like a disgusting parody of an actual characteristic that a human group has, that's not good cosplay. Like, if the only way I can tell that you're Lando Calrissian is because you put on a bunch of bullshit Dita Von Teese bronzer, that means your costume sucks. Like, we should be able to tell who you are if we can't see your face at all. Like, if we cut the head on your picture, then your costume is good? All right, then you're Geordie because you're wearing like the Starfleet regulation gold for the engineering, and you've got the visor.
Yeah.
If you're just like, no, look, I'm Jordan, like, well, then we're gonna have a different conversation.
I agree. If you, if your face was blurred out, but the rest of your costume, makes sense, I think that's good to go. And also, accents. Maybe don't do accents.
Yeah, don't do the voices.
Yes, and especially when they're from like a cultural, a specific culture that also connects with generally skin colors. Southern accent, maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe a British accent's not a big deal. Those are not specifically, the British accent's colonized all over the world. People speak like that all over the place. So that would be my 2 cents is, don't have a Jamaican accent.
Yeah, literally, if you think about, like, did this person get teased in elementary school for this? Don't do it.
Ooh, that's a good way to look at it.
Kind of like with comedy, don't punch down.
Yep.
Like I keep bringing it up, if you're gonna cosplay something from Lovecraft country, have it be either of the sisters, not Topsy. Like, have it be the person that's the hero or the interesting villain, but don't be the racial stereotype.
And I think too, like, showing the love, like, especially at CONvergence, like maybe in the real world, that it's gonna be received differently. But at CONvergence, people will see the love you have. If you're Lando Calrissian and you're like, I've got the cape, I've got the boots, people are gonna be like so excited about all of those details that they will know, one, who you are, and be so happy that you put all this work into it, and especially if it's not your background, like ethnically or skin color wise or culturally, like, wow, you loved and you love the character so much that even though it was cast with somebody else who doesn't look like you, you're still like, I still want to show my love for this character. And I think at CONvergence people can really appreciate it.
And sometimes there are some elements that also are sort of fraught, like, for instance, like historically speaking, and again, please correct me or stop me if I say anything that's wrong. Like in the workspace, there were a lot of issues with like African American hairstyles, and I know there was a lot of happiness in like season 3 of Discovery when Michael Burnham got to wear braids. So, like if somebody wanted to cosplay season 3 Michael Burnham and they wanted to wear braids, how would that be okay?
I think that's part of that. That is part of her character. I think that's a hard one, but I think she wouldn't be season 3 Captain Burnham. I mean, without her braids.
I think when it comes to stuff like that, or symbols, like you want to be Maui from Amáda, and things that are very closely tied to the inherent culture of the character, fictional or not, it definitely becomes a question of authenticity and appreciation in the execution. So, I mean, if you have a wig, like there's a difference between like an Afro wig and like an Afro wig, if that makes sense. Like there's a character in the video games, Tiger, in, I'm gonna show my age, in Tekken 3, he does capoeira, and he has a disco variant that has an Afro, but it's very clearly like meant to be kind of cartoonish, and it's like a perfect spear. That's fine if you decided for whatever reason that you wanted to cosplay, say like Dr. Angela Davis. She has a very distinctive hairstyle, which would be really hard to say I'm Angela Davis without that hairstyle. At the same time, if you have an SPF higher than 40, maybe Dr. Angela Davis is not the person to cosplay, but perhaps like assistant to Dr. Davis is better. Or with Maui, if you don't know what the symbols are in Maori culture, then don't do it. If you have to ask, I mean, I wanted to cosplay, sharing time, safe space, right? I wanted to cosplay Namor from the new Wakanda Forever, not old Speedo guy, but like new badass, like yeah. And for many reasons, I chose not to do that. But before, when I thought I was like, I'm gonna get in super, super awesome shape, I reached out to a ton of folks asking us like, look, all of this stuff is fictional. There is no Atlantis. Sorry, spoiler. There is no, it does not exist. But they borrowed it so much, and because the costume designers and the production designers on that set under Ryan Coogler's direction were so attentive to get that cultural authenticity even in a fictional world, I was like, I'm not gonna piss off like Mesoamerican or people with Mesoamerican heritage. I'm not gonna piss off like all my like Latina brothers and sisters. I'm not gonna get into that. I looked at it as if I have to ask, then I can just step away.
Yeah, I feel like it's back to that idea of love. Like, if you love that character so much that you want to do it, at a certain point you have to be like, can I do it well enough to match my love?
Well, I think it's kind of the difference between doing it as an adult and doing it as like a little kid.
Yes.
Like, that's why little kids can cosplay as Moana, because they love the character, not the idea of putting on a culture to try it on. They're just like, I like her because she's strong. I also want to go out and do things on my own. But as an adult, you have to think, does it weigh, am I doing this with kindness and respect? Will the people that I am portraying be upset with me? Does my want to do this outweigh how much I can respect somebody by doing it? And if you are just so hell-bent on doing it and that's more important than offending somebody, then maybe don't do it. Because sometimes you just don't get to do what you want. Because it's going to hurt somebody. It's
do it for you and keep it at home.
Yeah, just do it at home. Have your weird race.
I got lots of costumes that I never worn in public.
To that point about that balance, that's a great, like no costume exists in a vacuum. Like even if you're like, this is innocent, like I watch this movie, I read these comics, I watch these shows, I want to be this character. That unfortunately, that's not in a vacuum. So when you say like Captain Burnham, like yes, like a white woman could cosplay her. However, like in the vacuum, you could totally like either wear the wig or get her own hair braided. But because there is such a history of black culture being misappropriated and then stolen and exploited and all these other, like that now weighs on this costume. Now sure, that's not your intent to become like, oh, I'm gonna break the mold, I'm gonna show how awesome it is. Because one, you can't, don't do that. It's not time for that. We're not ready. But two, it's that context comes in there. That's why blackface, like blackface by itself historically is not inherently racist. It's because of all the stuff around it that made it a tool of oppression. And I mean, this could be a whole other panel by itself. But that's why you can say like, well, I just want to be a Klingon. It's like, yeah, Klingons aren't real. But unfortunately, the skin tones that Klingons are portrayed in is real. And by you putting on that makeup, you're now participating in something because of the context. So there's no vacuum with cosplay.
Well, it's also thinking too, like what is it about Michael that you want to portray? Does it have to be the version with braids? Yeah. Could it be any of the other versions of her that are not specifically the braids? If it is the braids, what is it about the braids that you have to do? Like, that's a moment for you to do some sort of reflection about why you're drawn to that thing.
Well, and also cosplay does not have, I mean, like, it absolutely can be the most accurate, like, screen accurate, comic accurate you want it to be, but it also doesn't have to be. One of the beautiful things about cosplay is the open creativity of it. Like, the idea of that you can take this character and turn it into something of your own. That's beautiful, and if you can do it and do it really well, people are gonna love you for it.
I mean, that's why I did the white wig instead of the blonde wig, because to me, I was like, I feel like I want to be blonde. But then it made me think of like color variant versions of fighting games when like Chun-Li's in pink, Chun-Li's in green. Like, well, what if Kyoko was in a white wig? What if she had a pink wig? Who
cares? You're the shiny Pokemon version of that character, y'all.
Oh, okay, I like that. Hey. Non-racist version of, oh, so you're the black this.
Yeah, you're the shiny variant.
This. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I would also say just that basing it on a culture, like you're saying, Mesoamerican, like when a character is based on culture is very different than a person, but and also like we think about Michael Burnham, there's really, I mean, there's only a Star Trek uniform. Like there's really not much to know who anybody is unless you watch the show, and for that character in like season 3 with the braids. But the other ones, you know, her hair is still very distinctive, like African American black hair, like she still has all the different shaping in her hair, so like it would not be easy to pull off, you know, by a white person, unless they have amazingly, you know, kinky hair, and then I don't know if they would still would be appropriate. But there's just so many other characters to do. And I think, like, if we talk about Lando Calrissian versus, like, Michael Burnham, Lando has, like, all of the things to make him who he is. Whereas I think for Michael, I feel like those two characters are so different to judge in this conversation, because she is based on, like, not based on, like, a real person, but she portrays, like, just a regular person. Whereas Lando is like a character. I don't know if that makes sense.
She's more grounded in reality. Versus,
Yeah, there's
like,
just not much to
fantasy.
do costume-wise if we're talking about cosplay.
Okay, well, we're running a little behind what I would have liked, but I'd like to open it up to the audience now for any questions, observations, comments. Yes?
So earlier in the conversation, we talked about how all characters are available to be cosplayed. And then we moved into some characters are not cosplayable by everyone. Is the distinction based on the culture? And so Moana is a great example. She's very much representative of the culture. Or is there something else I'm missing?
I think Moana in herself is probably a pretty, like, anybody can be her. I think specifically Maui is different because of the tattoos, because
Yeah.
that's so significant to a culture.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it and you do it wrong, you know, and it's just like, that's where it is, where if you're doing it, it's one of those things of like, have a little empathy of like, think about if this was your culture and somebody did it disrespectfully, then would you be offended? It's one of those things of like, if somebody took something sacred to you and didn't do it right, how would you look at it? And that's sort of like where I draw that distinction of like, should I do this, should I not?
It's not that you can't do the character. So like say Frost. Sorry, you're the first white guy I saw. So say
That's my husband too, so he's
like if Frost wanted to be Maui, then like Maui's probably his most distinctive, or second most distinctive trait is the giant, the fish hook.
Yeah.
Like Frost carrying the fish hook without tattoos becomes pretty apparent that he's either like really bad at fishing right now, or he's cosplaying Maui. And he could get away with the character without being offensive. Or if he does, yeah, he could wear the wig, those luscious curls, that awesome, and have the fish hook, and then have some kind of wrap. I'm trying to remember what Maui wore exactly. Yeah, kind of like those. And then people are like, oh, that's Maui. Without him, maybe he wants to spend a couple more hours in the sun.
at the gym,
Yeah. But yes, but like, so the character is not off limits, but like doing iterations of the character in a way that's culturally insensitive or that misappropriates, even if it's unintentional. I mean, because people on the street or at con are not gonna be like, you know what? I bet that person had the best of intentions. I bet they don't mean anything by this. This is fine. Usually what they see is like, that person's a jackass.
To be fair, like I feel like that is like the experience of being a color at a con is like inevitably there's always that like, ooh, you tried. I see you trying, but
Well, and it's that thing too, kind of like freedom of speech, it's like not freedom of consequences. So like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like in the grand scheme of things, do it, you can. But just know that like, if it hurts somebody, that's a choice that was made. So, yeah, just think about intent and causing pain is your need to cosplay that character more important than like making sure other people aren't hurt?
and if it is, maybe put some effort into it.
I remember wanting to do Foxy Cleopatra when whatever it's called came out, Austin Powers. And I had like a mantra as like a woman at the time. I would say like, I would pretend I had a best friend, Foxy Cleopatra, and I'd be like, what would Foxy Cleopatra say? She'd be like, hell no, you're not dating that guy, or whatever it was. And but I really wanted to dress up as her, and I was like, I can totally rock an afro, and because I'm very like generic ethnic, and also I am like a small part black as well. but I was just like, but if I do it, are people gonna be like, oh, you are black, you identify as black, and there's gonna be a whole, like, questions that I'm now presenting if I do this, and I was like, I can't do that then. Even though the rest of the world would probably be like, oh, she's black, and she's now, you know, not everyone who's black has like curly hair either, so like it would be fine. I can be however I identify, but I was just like, but if I do, I feel like I'm misportraying something, and then I wouldn't want to do that.
So if you were to tweak that costume,
Yes,
'cause you can wear it like all this, but like,
Yeah.
what would you do if you were to tweak? Because I'd be interested to see that costume tweaked.
Yeah, you know, ways I could do it. I mean, it's just that her look in that movie is so iconic, and that's her hair is part of that. But like, you know, I've done where like I take my hair and make like tiny little buns. So I might like do my like lots of little buns around my hair or something like that to kind of give that same circular sort of silhouette. So yeah, so I mean, the gold bodysuit, I was just like, well, then there's that. So thank you for asking though.
I'm always intrigued.
Ways to tweak it. Yeah, there you
Why
go.
not?
Just as a reminder, one of the sheets of paper are also just to help if you have a question so that I can identify the right person. And we have the green sheet of paper.
I feel like white women, I'm one, we're so used to having an assumption of innocence, an assumption of good intentions, and getting the benefit of the doubt all the time. And I just trying to make decisions about this without assuming that I'm entitled to the benefit of the doubt. That it might, this thing about, do I want to do this real bad, and what if I hurt somebody? I mean, you know, I can have, as you say, the best intentions in the world, but if I hurt even one person, or it's ambiguous and causes disturbance and people have to talk and ask questions and all that in a way that is hurtful to people, I don't really want to walk around thinking I'm entitled to the benefit of the doubt all the time. I appreciate the grace that some people have offered on this panel, but I think we need to get done with that. Not in a mean self-editing way, just we need to get done with it.
Which I think is part of allyship, like taking on that emotional labor for yourself is always a good place to come at it from. Like, I think as a person of color, you walk around the world just being like, yeah, that's just part of life, you know, and you get numb to it after a while. So there is a certain amount of need for allies to be able to do that work.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
I think we're all kind of, I was a little stunned, so I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, no
Thank you.
apologies.
In a good way.
Stunned in a good way, yes, and a very generous, yeah, thank you.
Any more questions? Yes, Spider-Man, 2099. You didn't need a paper.
I had the same questions like Amáda about people doing the yellow hair, racial ambiguity, I'm not today and those sort of things, but like I did the parade and saw the families from that culture really appreciated seeing that, and it's very intended. But the question is, on the scale of things with a young white girl doing an anime character, I know this is beyond cosplay, but then Scarlett Johansson doing a character in a movie, where is it?
It's about how far does your voice reach, you know? Like, if you're just a girl walking around a con, I don't care, but like, yeah, Scarlett Johansson stealing Asian parts from Asian women.
Yeah, the stone in that movie where she was supposed to be
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I didn't realize that. It's like, listen to literally anybody at the end of your day.
And it's like, take 2 seconds, just sit with that thought for 2 seconds.
Don't say yes right away, you'll get another job.
Yeah! You don't need the paycheck that bad.
Any comments?
Yes.
That covered it. Okay. Any more questions? Anybody in the audience? Wow. So all questions have been answered.
We did it.
Oh, there's one.
I'll ask you a question. Does gender ever play into things? So if I wanted to do like something, like I'm really into Chinese dramas. So if I wanted to do one of those characters, but I wanted to do a male one, is there anything there that we should be aware of?
I think again, it's just do it with love. Like do it with love and respect. And I think if you're coming at it from that, I think you should be fine. Like gender is definitely, we're getting to a point, thankfully, in society where we're having those conversations. But part of that is also like, we get to play with it a little bit more, which is nice. And it opens up such avenues to people that we hadn't even thought of before, maybe. And so yeah, I think if you love it, and you're like, I can do this, I can do it really well, go for it.
I mean, I've cosplayed as Ed from Our Flag Means Death a couple times, and I never change anything about my gender, and I'm very, very femme, and I'm like, this is just Ed. This is Ed, but it's me. So I put on my gray wig, and I'm like, Ed's got titties.
I did sexy Iron Bull from fucking Dragon Age.
I've done Batman.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm Batman. I don't want to be Batgirl. I
No,
want
no,
to
no,
be Batman.
yeah. Big ass like battle axe, so like tits out, and you're like, yeah, what of it?
Who cares?
I love it that now it's also like, ask people. It's kind of like pronouns, you can't just assume someone's pronouns either, right? You ask them and you actually like look in their eye and you say, oh, my pronouns, not my pronouns are this, and wait and see if they would like to share. But the same thing, you're like, oh, I love your costume, tell me about it. And in your head, you might be thinking, is it Batgirl? And you just be quiet and wait for the person to say, I'm Batman. And then you say, awesome. You don't say, but I can see that you have breasts. You don't say like, but you didn't bind your chest. No, you just say, I love your Batman, and you move on and appreciate it. You don't need to put that person in a box of their gender bender, they're doing Batman as a girl. Like, no, that's not on you.
Let people tell you about themselves, and they will never shut up.
It's funny, so I do a lot of, we used to call it crossplay back in the day. I don't know if that's still acceptable. Or gender bending. It's funny we mentioned Michael Burnham, because I've done 2 versions, one from season 1 and one from season 4, mostly because the uniforms are just so badass in both those seasons. And both times I wore a wig, and both times I talked to a bunch of people beforehand, just saying like, in this case it was just sort of like, all right, there are so few badass, non-dude leads in a major science fiction franchise. Just period, full stop. And I was like, yeah, we had like Aunt Entity in Beyond the Thunderdome, Tina Turner, for a while, and then there was nobody after her for a while. Before that, it was really Uhura and maybe Dana from Blake 7, which is a little bit of a deep cut. Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I don't want to be, and again, there's a lot of me, like take up a lot of space. I was like, I don't want to take up space from, this is like a unique opportunity. This is like, oh shit, like people finally see a brown woman as the head of a starship. Even maybe she shouldn't have been, but whatever, that's the whole, it's different panel.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is too, is like, yeah, we are still doing that, there's just not qualifiers anymore. You're literally just, I showed up like this, and this is what I am, and I don't have to explain that I'm gender bent. You just know what I am because I told you.
Even with Harley Quinn, which, that was a beautiful conversation I had with a young man. He did seem well-intentioned, and he was just like, oh man, that's so awesome, you don't see that. And I was like, thank you. He's like, you're like Charlie Quinn. And it's like, I appreciate the wordplay. Because puns, yes, but...
10 years ago, that was clever. Yes, good.
Actually, my name is Dr. Harleen Quinzel. He's like, and you could see the gears turning. He's like, look at me. I mean, he didn't like look, but he was like looking. And I was like, look, sweetheart. Even if you find what you're looking for, it's still fucking Harley Quinn with a hard H. But yeah.
Almost out of time. If anybody has a quick question.
Can I take a picture of the audience? Like a little video? Is that cool with people? It's for TikTok. All right, act like you're having fun. It's the most amazing panel ever. And you learn so much.
Well, I mean, the lack of additional questions means we clearly solved racism. So.
Right?
With the last one, do we want to talk about maybe like favorite cosplays that we've done?
Absolutely.
All right, well, I'll go first. So,
After that, we'll just go quick from and you can tell people where we can find you online.
Do not pursue me online.
Like-
My favorite one, my favorite Disney character ever was one of the centaurs in Fantasia, and she was gorgeous and beautiful, and I loved her. And then we saw the full cut, and she is being serviced by this utterly horrible racist stereotype, and I was heartbroken. And so I was like, I'm taking her back. I'm taking her back. So I did a centaur costume made out of plumbing parts, wooden dowels, and pillow stuffing.
Is there any, like, do you have any social media, anything you'd like people
If you
to
look
check
up
on?
Sonni DeSoto on the internet, you can probably find me, but y'all, I don't do nothing on the internet no more.
You should, because look at your outfit. I think it's probably, I mean, it's really anytime I'm just like, I'm gonna be the thing I like, but I'm barely gonna change anything about myself because I'm all right. I did a Rococo punk bat family with a bunch of my friends, so like I designed them and we were all, like, so I was Batman, my friend Jane was Robin, we had a spoiler, my husband was Nightwing, we did a Babs, and there was somebody else in there. But I did Rococo punk versions of them, and I really liked that one because it was ridiculous, and I love like fan art versions of things. And then the other one is probably, so I was Ed from the Pirate Show, but from a modern AU fan fiction. Shut up. And it was literally just like me with the gray wig and like black glasses and paintbrushes in my hair, like a splattered shirt, and I was like, amazing. I did not put on any facial hair, and I was like, yeah, this is what you get.
I'm gonna just step away for a second and kind of talk about the costume I have, which is I wore a Bridgerton experience here in town, and so started with Hamilton, and which I have only seen on Disney, but seeing a whole theater full of people of color for the most part, doing, you know, Broadway big time musical, like just brought me to tears and still brings me to tears like very easily. Just seeing like that representation of people singing and dancing on Broadway on a big stage, all people of color as normal, was just breathtaking. And seeing like the Queen in Bridgerton being a black woman and being like, what, this is amazing. And it's just so great, and I'm just so thankful for that. So I don't really have like a favorite. Probably Wonder Woman's my favorite thing to cosplay, but I love, and I think I do it well, but I really love putting this together and what I'm wearing right now. And I love the fact that in our, you know, our portrayal from school of that everybody was white in the history books, and which of course is not true, obviously, but seeing like a brown person in like Marie Antoinette esque on that costume that I bought on Amazon and is nowhere near screen or culturally accurate at all. Yeah, I'm proud to do this.
So my favorite is the tie, and not so much because of the costume, but because of the situation. The first of which was Captain Ben Cisco, but the vest uniform from Pale Moonlight, which even if you don't like Star Trek, which of course you do, it's a great episode. It's very sharp. I'll be wearing it tomorrow morning, probably. Anyway. And then I finally, after X amount of years, was able to fully assemble a more authentic 7th Doctor costume. And the reason why that was great was because, one, vindication, so all those kids in 3rd grade can go suck it. But then, just this past January, at a different convention, Council Room, Sophie Aldred, I'm not going to explain who it is, because almost that time, but just understand, she's very important. She was there, and I got to recreate photos that I saw as a kid in Doctor Who magazine of the 7th Doctor and Ace, with Ace, and I got to propose, and she said yes, but then she got on a plane, and I was like, wait, this is legally binding, right? If you propose. So I went on stage, and I was like, I've been wanting to ask you this for 35 years, but will you marry me? And she's like, yes, and then she like left the hotel. So I'm kind of engaged.
Where should we look for you online? Are there places?
I'm Amáda Márquez Simula. I'm on all the whatever socials, and then And then I'm in a panel tomorrow for Deep Space Nine, The Far Beyond the Stars. I think that's how you say it.